of time now on our hands to just talk a little bit about the year in review, and by doing so, our picks for MVPs of every team that we cover, and not just what we cover, some we don't cover that much of. Most notably, this year we didn't do a lot of soccer games on the air, but Ken Furman and Mike Anderson spent a lot of time with those two teams. So let's start off. Let's get the ball rolling literally with those two.
Absolutely. And this is a very chivalrous program, of course. So let's start with the ladies. The women's soccer team, kind of a tale of 2 years, right? Kind of a tale of 2 seasons. Remember, they stacked the non-conference part of their schedule with some tough teams. And the goal was, iron sharpens iron. It's going to make them better. Well, unfortunately for the women, they wound up missing the playoffs. They finished 7-8-2 overall, did finish 500 in conference play, 4-4-1 in the America East, dominated at home, 5-1-1, but struggled away from home. So I'm going to throw this one over to Ken. Ken, who do you have for the 2021 women's soccer team MVP?
Yeah, just looking at the team as a whole, I thought, just comparing it from the previous year where they were so successful, obviously finding that success in conference tournament play to go all the way to here to where they didn't make it to the postseason. There's a lot of disappointment, especially on the defensive side. But I think one player who still remained pretty dominant was Alyssa Francis. She finished on the conference second team, led the team in goals, 15 points overall, and was responsible for 4 of the team's 7 game-winning goals. So Francis, I thought, carried off from her senior season to a pretty good graduate season. And I think, again, in a year where there wasn't too much going right for that team, I thought she remained, consistent as, that dominant scorer.
Awesome. Anybody else have any women's soccer team MVP picks?
Yeah, I liked Emerson Richmond Burke myself. I kind of felt like, when you're the goalie, you take it, you get the good and the bad. Do you know what I'm saying? You get the praise sometimes when you don't deserve it, and you get the punishment sometimes when you don't deserve it as well too. I thought she played well, but I thought she was kind of hung out there a little bit as the season kind of went on. But I thought that she kind of hung tough for them this year. So I like the way that she played. With the I just in my guard, it's just tough for them. It was a hard year for them, and it was a tough way to go. But I thought she shined a little bit as well too.
For sure. No, absolutely.
She's still, even again with that defense, and even again the offense outside of Francis, where not much was going on.
Right.
Burke still finished with a respectable record 7-6-2, and it had 85 saves on the season. So the save percentage is obviously something you want to work on. And 8-18, it's not going to cut it, obviously, but she's someone who in the past has shown where it's tough shoes to fill, filling in for Sophia Manor and her incredible goaltending for the last few years. But the potential is definitely there. This year in the CAA, it's going to be a big step up. Going to have to be for the entire team, definitely for Burke as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes for them. I mean, you look early on in their schedule here. I mean, they played Hofstra off the bat and they got smoked.
Yeah,
they lost 5-1.
That's the trend almost.
That's like an indication of where they could potentially go. But I do think we talked about it a little bit in the spring with some of the spring teams, but I do feel like sometimes it's a little bit of a warm up for some of these younger players to get into next year in the CAA.
And the good news, from as lacrosse coach Glardy, Coach Bischoff was an associate head coach for Hofstra for many years before he came over to Stony Brook. So there's definitely a knowledge and experience there. So that team's going to know what to expect come CAA time in the fall.
I think that's a really good point, Ken.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll segue into the men's soccer team now. The surprise of the Stony Brook Athletic academic year. Can we say that, right?
100%. They were shocked. I thought, coming out of this, they're going to somehow do even worse than the year before. They weren't all too great the year before. Full season. Well, in the spring they went 1-6-1. So obviously, nothing too remarkable there.
Right. But, in the 2020, the 2020, really 2021 season, they were, I think it was 1-6-1, and the year before that, 2019, they were 4-11-1 or 4-11-2. Yeah, it was garbage, man. They played some bad soccer, and they were projected to finish 9th in the conference this year coming in.
Yep.
And they wound up hosting a home playoff game. That's really impressive. In a conference that had Vermont, who missed a national ranking by 1 spot coming into the season, and UNH, who wound up in the top 10. They
were 7 for a lot of that season.
Right. And, overall, the men's soccer team, 8-6-1, 4-4 in conference play, finished 4th place. They pulled off some upsets. They also were on the other end of some upsets. So obviously the consistency wasn't always there, but they were an entertaining team to watch. And for me, I'm gonna stick with the same theme that Greg just introduced, and I think my MVP is Eddie Kaiser. Now, save percentage, his save percentage is significantly lower than the women's goalkeeper. But keep in mind too, that UNH game completely changed just the whole statistical outlook of their season. So that kind of put a crimp in Eddie's stat line. But he won 2 America East Defensive Player of the Week awards this year. Pitched 4 clean sheets. Most of the damage done against him was really on penalty kicks, so quite literally, I don't know how much of it was really his fault. I think he'll probably, he'll take a lot on the chin. He might take some criticism, but I think Eddie Kaiser's really solid. I think the Seawolves have a good goalie going forward. I know he's got 1 more year. If he wants to use that 2020 red shirt, he's got 2 more years. I think they got a good one there in Eddie, and I'm going to give him the team MVP, and mainly because the men's soccer team, not really offensively inclined. They're a defense-first team. Just the fact that they finished over 500 and made the playoffs meant that something was going right on the defensive side of the ball. I think Eddie was perhaps the most valuable on the team. Anybody disagree? Anybody got another one?
I was going to say, you're definitely right, I think, in a lot of those aspects. And it's just, especially in the offense, in terms of, obviously everything was better than the year before. But you're right, the offense, they weren't, as active, obviously, as in prior seasons. But my player of the year is Jonas Bekas. And part of that, I think, is because of just how much it looked like he was a guy who looked like a veteran when he was only a rookie.
Right. Scored the game-winning goal in his first ever game.
First one, yeah. And
won the Rookie of the Year, too.
That's right, yeah. And that kind of kickstarted everything off, I think, in terms of his season. Finishing 4 goals, 8 points, a couple of game winners. But he's someone who I think you could tell on the field was not only really comfortable transitioning to the collegiate game coming from high school, but it's also someone who transitioned well, I think, in a leadership position. And in this team where there are so many new faces compared to 2019 and 2020, it was evident that he was someone that the rest of the guys looked up to, and, definitely was an instructor in terms of how that offense was going to be efficient for the season. And Mike, you covered them, so I'm sure you could agree with some anecdotes on what the guys are saying.
No, yeah, I was thrown right into the fire. Didn't know a thing about soccer. Left the year knowing a lot about soccer, and it was because of those guys. They really took me under their wing. They're a good group of guys, and I think that his America East Rookie of the Year, I think that was very much deserved. Keep in mind, it's not that he came out of high school. He came straight from Iceland. I think he's a 21-year-old
Lithuania.
freshman. Lithuania? Oh, right. No, Aki is from Iceland. That's and I had him on my mind. I was just about to talk about
another good guy.
They're very good. Right. They are a very good duo on the attack. I'm pretty sure Aki Silvasen was their leading scorer this year. He's a good passer.
And Jonas tied for 4.
Yeah. So, I mean, and every time one scored, the other one outdid them. They alternated.
Yes, Silvasen is from Iceland. But the great thing about both these guys is that Bekas is a freshman and Silvasen's a sophomore.
Yeah. Well,
okay. You're going into CAA competition with those guys leading your offense.
Right. And they're only going to get better. Remember, Aki was one of the few bright spots on that 2020 team, that awful 1-6-1 team. He was second team all conference as a freshman. So, you got a couple of guys who really hit the ground running in their Stony Brook careers. You're going to bring back Eddie Kaiser, to tend the goal. Unfortunately, they are losing Gabe Fernandez, who not only was he, a stout defender, good passer, facilitating the attack from the midfield position, but
he was your number 10.
He was such a good vocal leader, and there's not a stat that really describes or weighs his leadership.
But you know
I
what
think
that
all his
means.
teammates loved him.
Great debate comes now. Who's going to be your number 10? Because I mean, those of you not familiar with there's a reason why great players throughout the history of soccer have worn number 10, like Pele and Zidane and all these other Maradona and all these other guys, because it's actually a position on the soccer team. Your not just your leader, your playmaker, everything goes through him. And Fernandez was the number 10. That means there's going to be somebody else who's going to take his place. Who's that's going to be? Who's that going to be?
And Gabe also probably wore that because of his brother, his older brother, Leo Messi. Leo Messi.
We wish.
Leo Fernandez.
He's another number 10.
Right? No, that's why I was. Wow, just tonight is not my night. So Leo Fernandez is perhaps the greatest Stony Brook men's soccer player,
he's up there
in program history. So he's definitely up there, 3-time team MVP. So when he wore number 10, he's a pro soccer player. So is his twin brother Gustavo. I know Gabe's trying to get there, and I have faith that he will. But they definitely look promising with Jonas and Aki coming back, with Eddie coming back. Corey Cupid's another big loss, but yeah. So I definitely like your pick, Ken. Jonas. Stony Brook Athletics found out with 2 games left that they were pronouncing his name wrong the whole year. It's Jonas Bichkus. It's Bichkus. That's how you pronounce it. But whatever. No matter how you pronounce his name, he's a hell of a player. So
yeah, and not only that too, but for those guys, they're going to need to take that step up because the CAA is still very competitive. Men's. Really both men's and women's soccer. This season, Hofstra went 18-2-2 on the year, made it all the way to the 3rd round in the NCAA tournament, and Northeastern was pretty competitive as well. They went 11-6-2. So you're going from New Hampshire to Hofstra, and obviously Hofstra's team better because again that local rivalry, but still it's not getting any easier in terms of American CAA in this scenario.
No, definitely not. But one final note on the men's soccer team before we shift to football. Men's soccer did play Hofstra this year. They lost to them in game 2, 1-0. That one goal was on a penalty kick. So they definitely played them very competitively. So that's definitely a thing to be encouraged by going into next year. But with that being said, rounding out the fall teams is the football team. Now, 1-5 start, 4-1 finish. When they were 0-3 in conference play, our very own Ken Furman boldly said on the air, "I don't think they will win a conference game this year." And then no, man. I totally was seconding that opinion. I was like, "Oh, absolutely. They're going to run the table." And then, surely enough, they go 4-1 the rest of the way. Yep. Finished 4-4 in conference play, so a 500 finish. They actually, after losing how many consecutive games at home? Was it 8 dating back to 2019? They finished with the winning record at home.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, 3-2 overall at home. So that was good.
If it's possible, we need to erase any memory whatsoever of 2020 in a lot of ways, but in particular Stony Brook football. Totally write it off.
They couldn't even finish
spring 2021, just forget it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Matt, it counts, though. No matter what, it'll always be in the record books.
Yeah, but leave it in the record books. Just don't remember it. Just give you nightmares.
Gloss over it.
Yeah.
Just skip that page in the record books.
The thing, though, was, we were talking about that, how this team wasn't going to win. It was just that, when they started the season, obviously take out the Cooley game, take out number 4 Oregon, but those games were winnable games. New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Towson, they were all 1-score losses.
Right.
That Rhode Island game went in overtime.
Yeah, and they shot themselves in the feet. New Hampshire, they absolutely should have won that. Granted, it's hard to say you should have won a game when you put yourselves in a hole that big, but
Lawton had a tremendous game that game. I remember that. He had 154 yards and couldn't win with that.
Yeah. But anyways, getting to it, my most valuable player for the football team back in 2021 is running back Tyson Lawton. Lawton was one of the few consistent aspects of the football team last year. He rushed for 1,088 yards and 10 touchdowns, put up 1,140 scrimmage yards with 11 total touchdowns. Lawton's season was dominant. He tallied 6 100-yard games. He was explosive as well. He is a a downhill runner, but man, he'll rip one off. Average 5 yards per carry, highlighted, of course, by his 99-yard touchdown.
That's why I was laughing. It was like he put 99 on.
It's even funnier that 99-yard long run. He averaged 99 yards a game. 98.91. So
right, he hit his quota on the first play of the game. Against a ranked team, too. That was Delaware, and that was Stony Brook's first conference win.
When you average 100 yards a game, what more can you do?
Right, exactly. His strong season, it helped lead that in-season turnaround. It was great to see them finish winning 4 of their last 5. Very competitive CAA this year. A lot of 4-4 teams. It was just nice to be a part of it. So that's my MVP pick. Anybody here got anything different?
Yeah, I got Tyler King.
There you go. I was hoping somebody would mention him.
I just kind of feel like, don't you feel like? Listen, I think you can go either way because you're talking offense, defense right now.
For sure.
Right. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer watching offense? Do you prefer watching defense?
Right. As a Jets fan, I think I'm a defense guy, but Chuck Priore, very smash mouth football kind of guy. I think Tyson Lawton kind of epitomizes the quote unquote ground Chuck offense, but you can't go wrong picking Tyler King. Just go ahead, Greg. Tell me
the one thing well, obviously just, first team All-American for a freshman on the freshman team, the FCS freshman. So I think you have to keep it that way. The Hero Sports FCS freshman All-American, third team CAA. But when I looked at his stats and stuff like that, what really impressed me was one of his better games being against Oregon. 7 solo tackles, 5 assists, 12 total. So kind of like shining when the big games are being played. That's kind of how I looked at it as well too. So, and you're kind of looking to right the ship. I think those 2 guys that we talked about here are 2 guys that are going to right the ship here for the football team.
For sure. And the great thing about Tyler King too is he's so young. I think he was a redshirt sophomore last year, right? So
freshman.
Yeah, a redshirt freshman. Okay, so he's a true sophomore. You're right. So he's got a lot of time left, and football is one of those sports where you get a lot of 6-year guys. So we have how many 6-year guys coming back this year, just with Cartel and Reggie DeManche and all of them. So Tyler King's going to be around for quite a while.
Think about this too, because this reinforced what Greg said. He had 1.5 sacks on the year, had half a sack against Rhode Island, and the full sack came against Oregon.
Yeah, he was all over the field that game. And
he was one of the few guys that when I watched that game, that I said to myself, this guy could be playing for either team right now.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You really felt like that.
Right, and stars shine brightest in the dark, So on a day where you're losing 48-7.
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's also easiest to spot Tyler King. And Tyler King, I don't know exactly who's calling the plays, on defense, if it's him or if it's DeManche, but if it wasn't Tyler King as the Mike linebacker this year, I think it should be going forward because he's so instinctual. He's so athletic. He looks like he was a skill position player in high school. You know what I'm saying? And they just moved him to linebacker because of his athletic build. No, he's a monster.
Definitely athletic because I remember the one interception he had, it was against Maine, and I remember he jumped pretty high to grab that.
Oh yeah.
He was, I think, almost, he was above almost some of the linemen on the other side when he grabbed that ball. I remember that he got some hops, but also, again, as you said, great mind. He's a great defender and is definitely going to be, if he's not already, a great leader for this defense for the football team. And that's something to look forward to, especially come next season where atop the standings with JMU, they're not there anymore. So Villanova went 7-1 this season. We're really, standings are wide open after that.
For sure. No, yeah, no doubt.
It's the one team that doesn't have to say what's the CAA going to be like.
That's right.
Right.
They know what the CAA is going to be like, right? Just by the nature of not having American East football. So, and I like the way, like you're saying, I like the way that they finished up as well too. So I don't know. I just think that it's going to go well for them.
Yeah, for sure.
I really do.
I think needed, and we saw again defense, especially at the end, stepped up. Defense really kept them in the games a lot in those nail biting losses. It's
the defense that was really outstanding this year. I mean, aside from that Oregon game, which everybody knew that was going to happen. We still covered the spread, so haha.
I was gonna say it was still close in the first half.
Right.
Yes,
close.
actually, it was a good first half.
Yeah, it was like 17-7.
That's usually how those games go, though. I mean, the other team's superior depth wears you down, and then becomes one side the other way. But you know what? They came out of it all right.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
for sure.
What's interesting is that this year there are no teams like that on the schedule.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the athletic department wanted to put one on, but where are you going to fit them? Because I don't see any bye weeks anywhere, unless I missed something here. No,
I don't know.
In between Rhode Island, UMass, September 1, September 17. But
Rhode Island,
yes,
no breaks. There is the second week 2 is probably where they would have wanted to put it, but instead, UMass is probably the biggest team they're going to face outside the CAA.
Mm-hmm.
The question I have about like bringing in and playing Oregon and stuff like that, like I get it, like I understand, and I think it's a recruiting tool a little bit as well too. But I just think the question of doing that in a football, it's not like playing them in basketball,
right?
It's not like you're playing them in football. I mean, bad things can happen to some of the best players.
Yeah, you're only asking.
Yeah, it's such a risk.
You're asking for such an overperformance. I don't. But whatever. I guess we made $650,000 from it. So
we did. Yeah,
whatever. I guess that's a good thing. Just a final note on Tyler King: 95 total tackles. Made a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage. 12 and a half tackles for loss. So that led the team as well. He was one of those guys who, win or loss, you check the stat sheet, he was always right there at the top. So I definitely expect him to continue to ascend moving forward. Brian Collins comes back. Remember, longtime LIU coach, CW post, LIU post, LIU. He's the defensive line coach, but really he works with the whole defense. He's made everybody better. That whole defense was outstanding last year after that abysmal start, and I think that the defense is going to continue to carry this football team. Tyson Lawton and the defense. So with that being said, I think it's time to finally shift to the next season, the winter season. Again, we are a chivalrous program, so let's start with the women's team, the women's basketball team. Call me vanilla, but my MVP pick is center India Pagan, the starting center. Also played some power forward in her career. Pagan was the leading scorer for this team, 12.2 points per game, and also the leading rebounder at 6.5 rebounds per game. She also significantly improved her free throw percentage. She shot a career best 80.6 from the charity strip. Her leadership on and off the court is really what sets her apart from most. That leadership helped lead the team to yet another dominant year and also a WNIT bid. So, yeah, she's definitely going to be missed, but she made her fifth and final year worthwhile.
Yeah, and mind you, too, she didn't take the offseason off. She was playing in the Olympics, actually.
That's right. You can find her on Wikipedia.
Came as a third Seawolf to play in the Olympics, and I was representing Puerto Rico after, and that too. She doesn't usually take all seasons off. She's usually playing for Team Puerto Rico in tournaments or the Olympics, as you mentioned. But yeah, absolutely. That leadership, through and through. You saw it on the court. Even then, I would say she took a lesser role this season in terms of her involvement in the offense. She still led the team because she was nearly unstoppable inside. She shot 58% from inside. It's absolutely incredible. On top of 176 rebounds and leading the team with 26 blocks.
Right.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that because I think that's why she shouldn't be the MVP. To be honest with you, I got Annie Warren as the MVP.
Okay,
for this year.
Mm-hmm. Respected.
Yeah, I mean they're both obviously all Metro first team,
right?
But I just think, and this is where I'm gonna say she doesn't get the MVP is because defensively, with the amount of bigs that they have and the fact that they can kind of insert and move players around and match players up, I think it lent itself to India having a nice season this year. I mean, obviously she had to put the ball in the hoop, but you had so many other options on the inside and so many different players that could do some really nice stuff. And matchups wise, you were able to kind of put her on some players maybe at some times that were beneficial for her as a player. I think all three of the inside players got that advantage.
That's fair enough.
That would be my question there. I think both of them are worthy of it, but that's kind of why I went with Warren ahead of Pagan.
No, that's fair. And also, Annie Warren stretches the floor for them. I mean, she's the three, and she shot like 34% from deep. So that's pretty good too. This is a hard-nosed team. Ashley Langford really praises their defense, and they focus hard on their defense. Their offense feeds off their defense, to put it in her own words.
Under 57 games. They outscored their opponents by about 11 points per contest on average.
Right.
So it definitely goes into that. And, as you're saying, the rebounding definitely played a big part. By over 100 total, they out-rebounded opponents.
Yeah.
And that, as you said, turned into buckets on the other side with Warren, who I thought did a masterful job under Langford's system. She transitioned well under McComb's system to Langford's, and you really saw that, just how the offense expanded under that triangle offensive set. And it just opened up so many options for how Warren could score. Slashing, cutting down baseline, layups, drawing a foul, shooting threes. She did it all.
Yeah, I think she's going to have a better season next year as well too, because I think the handcuffs in a way were taken off of her a little bit, and I think that's a little bit of an adjustment period. I also think with the kind of the bigs being because Boucher is graduating as well too.
Right. Boucher's gone, Pagan's gone, and Roulette Scott is gone.
Right,
three big losses.
Yeah, it really is. But I think that moves. Gonna put the ball in her hands a little more. She's got pop, man. When she gets the ball in her hands, she can move. I love it. I love
she's
watching
dangerous.
her play. And she's not even my favorite player on the team.
I was gonna say this goes.
Who my favorite player on the team?
Right. This goes to my next point. Is that
who is your favorite player? I was out for however many months.
Hold on. This goes to my next point, that there were really multiple MVPs because Leah Morey-Wool.
Okay, there we go. I wanted someone to mention her because I knew she had a good year. I knew she was a useful player. I know she started every game at the power forward, but I didn't realize it until I checked her stats like right before the broadcast. She shot 44% overall and 42% from deep, and knocked down 90% of her free throws. Like that. Yeah. That's not only that, but she also plays very well, in the post defensively, backing down. She's a very good player.
And you want to know something else? I'm looking at the all-conference selections for women's basketball. First of all, Anastasia Warren got first team, and India Pagan got second team. That's number one. But number two, a player like Leah Morey-Wool, no recognition, and it's really a shame because a very solid player, very solid low post player, which is at a premium these days, and I think she was kind of like an unsung hero.
Right. Yeah, but great teams need those players, and it's all about how well do you respond to that lack of attention, that lack of coverage. Some people like being out of the spotlight, and some people get frustrated and then they demand trades and they go where they're going to be higher paid and more appreciated. I don't think that women's team has a very strong culture, a very strong locker room. They love one another. They play with their hearts on their sleeves. Every day is a blessing to them. And I think Leah Morey-Wool embraces the fact that she's a little overshadowed, but also considering the fact that India is gone, considering the fact that Boucher is gone, I think she's really gonna have her role expanded. And I think the lights are gonna be a little brighter. They're gonna shine on her a little bit more next year. And I can't wait to see how she handles it.
Well, the one thing I will say this year as far as Coach Langford's first season, she did a masterful job with the bigs, rotating them in and out and playing them around. So I really liked the way that she played, the way that she just injected them at the right time. And I think we're falling asleep on how good of a shooter she was. Just her rotation. It was just beautiful to watch her shoot. I gush watching her shoot. It's unbelievable how much I enjoy it.
Other teams didn't realize it either because you guys remember just calling the games that they leave her open in the corner, thinking she's not going to take this three. Not only she takes it, but she swishes it, just drains down the basket.
Right.
The defender's like, oh man, we have to do our homework
for sure, and it reflects in the numbers too. I mean, as I said, a shade under 42% from deep and 90% from the free throw line. 90%. It's an automatic point right there. You can't foul her.
Yeah.
You can't foul her, and you can't give her space.
You know who I think is going to have a big season next year is Erin Turrell. As she came in at the end of the season, she kind of moved on. I think she's going to have a big season as well too. I think they're going to go from a bigs to a guards team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to play fast, and I think they're going to press. That's what I would do if I was Coach Langford. I'd press, I'd trap, and I would play fast the entire time. That's how I would go after it.
Right.
Because they got Gonzalez, Warren, and Turrell
for sure
coming back. That's run the floor.
We'll see. We're going to need a bounce back here from Gigi Gonzalez, though. That's definitely one thing. She did have a good start to the year, but she wound up having not so good a year. So we're definitely going to need to see her step it up in her.
Yeah, that's the thing too, right? She was really good to start, but I think maybe part of the issue is the reason she shined, I thought, as a freshman was because she's someone where they really put the ball in her hands a lot, along with Warren. And I think as she lost that ball handling responsibility, as it went to other players like Scott, like Wool, Warren, Pagan, etc. Her impact lessened. So she's definitely someone to where she's a primary scorer. So that's if she's not doing that, it's tough to see how much of an impact she has at the moment. Although she did have 80 rebounds, so it wasn't too bad. But as I said, she's someone who really wants the ball in her hands because even when she's not scoring, she's still doing a good job getting assists. Led the team 112 assists last season.
Well, right, but that's just the point guards. That's naturally going to happen. I mean, it's it's not in the stats that we should really be looking for. She did not have a good finish to her season. I want to see her do much better.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun with this team, right? Because they were real good overall, 23-6, and you're going into a CAA that has a team like Drexel. They went 28-6. Delaware, Towson both went 24-8. So this is a team that could definitely be towards the upper echelon. Of women's basketball.
I'd hate to rain on your parade, guys, because I looked at the schedules for both Drexel and Delaware. Both of them played Maine, and both of them blew Maine out by over 20.
Oh, who didn't?
They did too. At Maine, Delaware 83, Maine 60. Okay, and Drexel being 57-33.
That's
I will say this: women's basketball.
We're going to be in. Look, I think this team will hold its own in the CAA, but I think we're going to be in This is an upgrade. This conference is tougher than the America East. There's no doubt about it. And yes, recruiting will upgrade and everything like that. You're going to be going up against these other teams, these other schools for players. But I also think that Stony Brook right now, I mean, even above Hofstra, because Hofstra was like second to last.
No, they're still rebuilding. It's been a couple seasons.
They're only second to last because UNC Wilmington went 0-18 in conference. Right. So, I mean, they're like the Hartford of CAA right now, at least in women's basketball. But the point is that that's one thing that we're going to have to worry about. Football, we know what we're dealing with in the CAA. Now we're starting to get into the hardcore because all the CAA schools care about basketball. You might be able to sneak in, in some areas like women's lacrosse. There are only a couple of teams that are really good in CAA, and Stony Brook can compete with them easy. But
more than the America East.
But you go into basketball, and it's a buzzsaw in both men's and women's. And you're going to be going up against some very, very tough competition. I still think they're up to it. I still think they'll be competitive, but we're going to be in for some surprises.
Right. And only time will tell.
Matt, to your point, I think what it does is it forces you to play well every game. And I don't think the America East forced you to do that with the maybe more with the men's and less with the women's. But I think that's going to cause the season to become a grind.
We can say it now that we're out of the America East and the season's over. And yes, I'm down on Hartford for downgrading their program, whatever. But the fact is that the Commissioner's Cup is usually the proof of the pudding. One of the reasons why Stony Brook was always contending for it is because it does give the right amount of attention to all its programs. Not all schools do that. I mean, you take a look at New Hampshire and women's basketball, or I mean, you take a look at some of the schools in women's lacrosse, and it's women's sports that are always the ones getting the short shrift, and men's lacrosse gets a little bit too, or in the bottom of the baseball or something like that. That maybe the marquee sports don't get all the attention they deserve, or in some cases, they may be spending all their time and money on sports that aren't even in the America East, like hockey.
Yeah, Matt brings up a good point too, because we're in transition to men's basketball, and that's something to where I think it's evident. Obviously, more investment is needed, which is how the past couple seasons have ended.
Yeah,
Mike.
No, for sure. But with that being said, I might as well take the baton from you. Right? Let's go to the men's basketball team. So. Men's basketball had a good year, but still they managed to disappoint too. They finished over 500. It was a winning record, 18-13 overall. They were 10-8 in conference play, dominant at the island, 13-4. Once again, they struggled away from home too at only 5-9. They came into the year with, unreal expectations. I mean, all those transfer ins, Elijah Alani comes back, Jaleel Jenkins comes in, Anthony Roberts, to accompany the potpourri of talents we already had here. We were expecting this men's team to dethrone Vermont, and mitigating circumstances, injuries, defections, the America East banning them from the postseason. It really threw the men's team by the wayside. They still managed to salvage a respectable year, though.
All those other blows were jabs. The America East decision was a haymaker.
That was the Avalanche.
It was a knockout punch.
Absolutely. That was it. That was what really sealed the deal. Having said that, respectable team, fun team to watch. They definitely won a couple track meets. 18-13 overall, 10-8 in America East play, and to me, they would not have been where they were in either of those aspects, overall or conference, if they didn't have Tyke Green.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting guard, small forward, really doesn't matter because he doesn't even play like a shooting guard or a small forward. He plays like a center.
By far.
He's got the shooting skills of a 2-3, the rebounding skills of a 4-5. He averaged almost a double-double over the final month of the season, finished as the team's second leading scorer at 14 points per game, led the conference in rebounding, 8.1 rebounds per game. He showed toughness and grit all season long, threw down some filthy dunks, tipped some passes, made his impact felt on the defensive side of the ball for a team that didn't really play much defense. He shot 52% overall from the field, 42.6% from deep. And mind you, this is on a team loaded with shooters and scorers that would probably overshadow him, a la Leo Amari Wool. So for a team littered with injuries, defections, and all other, BS mitigating circumstances, Tyke really showed out. Played all 31 games for them, right? Availability is the best ability. He managed to stay healthy, and he led this team to a winning record. And to me, that makes him the most valuable.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think he is. And the one thing that you didn't bring up, I don't think you brought up, but he improved offensively as the year went on.
Yes.
Down the stretch, 29 against UMBC, 21 against Hartford, 23 against Hartford, 17 UMass, 18 Albany, 27 NJIT.
Oh, yeah.
And as I'm going to say it, I thought the basketball team was a mess at the end of the season.
No.
I really did. I thought it was a mess.
That's not a hot take.
I didn't think so, but I'm really concerned about where they go next year, Matt. When we talk about the CAA next year.
Oh man, I'm so nervous.
But when things were unraveling, he elevated his game.
Right, he was the glue.
He was the guy that elevated his game offensively. I hope he takes the leadership role of the team next year.
I do too.
And then that kind of he becomes the focal point, just because the rebounding in basketball is something that you can't do. You can dribble too much, you can shoot too much, you can score too much. You can't rebound too much. And he's always going to do that. And now he's going to produce on the offensive end as well, too. I think just that rebounding thing is going to get people to want to play with him.
Yeah.
Because he does that gritty stuff that you love.
For sure. No, he plays team-friendly basketball, you know? Not only does he go out there and give you 20 a night, right, when his number is called, but he plays team-friendly basketball. Again, he's tipping passes, forcing loose balls, you know, getting the defensive rebound, but also giving your team second chances with the offensive rebound. Gino Ford called him a self-made bucket, and that's true. I mean, he just bounces off defenders like you know, like the little. I'm trying to think of the arcade game,
like a pinball,
just a pinball machine. Yes. Thank you, Ken. He's definitely a leader, like you said. I don't know if he's a raw leader, you know, but he is definitely a lead by example kind of guy. He's tough as all hell. And yeah, Greg, I mean, you know, that team, I guess we don't see it from where we sit, but obviously that team had a lot of egos. Obviously that team had a lot of me players. I mean, 5 guys quit.
Yeah, it was the disease of me ran right through that basketball team.
Right. And it's so hard to sell in the recruiting process. You know, if you're Gino Ford and you're like, hey, kid, why don't you come play for me? And then the kid's like, well, 5 kids, you know, made that decision and decided that it was a bad decision. So why should I? You know, it sends a bad message. And yeah, it was optically not pleasing, but he's a glue guy, man. He's the glue that kept that team together.
I'll tell you what, though, and this is. You know where it's going, obviously. If you can't recruit, obviously it's going to affect your job as a coach. But with players quitting, it's always a bad sign.
Yeah.
Yes, you can use the America East as an excuse. The only problem is you take a look at all the other programs in Stony Brook, and they were affected to some degree, but they held together and they kept playing on. I mean, baseball and softball, the perfect example. You know, they didn't care whether they weren't going to a tournament. They're going to play for the conference championship, and
to be fair to them,
they're all the way to the end.
But to be fair to them, men's basketball was in prime position to win the America East, and then it was taken from them. The baseball and softball team were not yet playing.
This is also true, but
so I do want to mention that. But I agree with the point you're trying to make. You know, the men's basketball team,
women's basketball kept playing. Same situation. Got into the WNIT. Okay,
exactly.
Faced their former coach, no less. But okay, men's basketball tanked
for sure. No, I mean and they were the only team. Maybe every team had a defection that we didn't know about. We knew about Elijah Olani. You know, we knew. So I guess Jaleel Jenkins didn't technically quit. He opted for surgery in season that I'm hearing he could have put it off. I don't know. I don't want to judge, but I think he might have used that as a way of quitting without quitting. The Shumpert brothers. Not that they were playing, but they both quit. And Juan Felix Rodriguez, who's back, by the way. He's still on the roster. He quit during the year.
That's the thing, too, just kind of, because we're previewing how this team's going to look in CAA. And right now, they only have 7 guys on the roster.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well.
Transfer portal.
Right? You got, well, that's the thing.
They've got a lot of transfer coming in.
With this team, though, this is my other thing. We're talking about the guys, and we're talking about quitting and just roster turnover and things like that. But besides football, I haven't seen a team with this much roster turnover in the past couple seasons than men's basketball. And I remember once COVID started, the starting 5 they had all left. Alliance was a part of that. Latimer was one.
Yeah.
Which are other guys as well. So they get new guys, right? Foreman, for example.
Yeah.
Mo Gee steps up, and then they transferred in the offseason. And it's
one defensive player of the year, and then
exactly he transferred out. And it's definitely, to me, that's what's really concerning is for this team. They are, I think, the most consistent in their inconsistency with just who's coming in, who's staying, who's going, and it's hard to gel and establish that team chemistry and figure out those systems when you don't know who's going to be there next season. And
this has happened at Stony Brook before. Well, the problem was 20 years ago.
Yes.
When we first went D1, we hired a new women's coach, Trish Roberts, and she had some success. I mean, in her first year in the America East, she came within 3 points of getting to the NCAA, beating Hartford, when Hartford had Jen Rosati coaching. Okay? So, had success. Good coach. Only problem is she had this player, one top player, Sherry Jordan, who she butted heads with. And Jordan was starting to, I guess, drift away from the team, eventually quit. And several other players of hers quit in a wave. And now arguments have been back and forth. Well, those players weren't really impact players. Doesn't matter. They're leaving. So eventually she left her on her own to herself. And I still don't know what's happened to her since. But the whole point is that the ship was taking on water, and it's tough for a coach because when it starts to snowball, the coach will end up losing the program.
But this is the thing. This is the third season of Coach Ford, and same thing's happened every season.
Well, you know what? Look, we're not the athletic directors here, but we're seeing the same things everybody else is seeing within the athletic department. This could be a make or break year.
Yeah, I was going to say for him, especially, I think
for Gino Ford, it's going to be a make or break year. Now you may say, "Oh, but they're going into tougher competition." This team, Hofstra finished. Let's see. Hold on. Hofstra, get a load of this. Delaware won the CAA last year in the tournament. Hofstra beat them by 5, and then. Also beat them by 14. Okay?
Wow.
And we beat Hofstra by what? 17? So
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the man who beat the man who beat the man, using that theory.
79-62.
Yeah, that's 17 points. Okay? The man who beat the man who beat the man theory, saying that Hofstra's a pretty good team in the CAA. We beat Hofstra, therefore we should be able to compete in the CAA.
Right. Well, in that case, the Jets would have won the AFC. They would have been in the Super Bowl, right? Because they beat the Bengals.
Right.
So,
hey, we beat St. Peter's.
Yeah. No, that's true. That was my first ever basketball game. That was my first basketball game. That was a much different men's basketball team.
Right.
So,
yeah, it was. That's the big problem. You start out with a team that could have. I don't think they would have beaten Vermont. Vermont ruled the America East end to end.
Right, but they could have rivaled them, finished just behind them, and maybe won at the right time in the tournament. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
if Jameel Warney had any more eligibility.
Okay, all right.
We're not the only one thinking this way,
that.
right? It's the fans too. The fans going to Allen Federal Arena, thinking this way. They see the success on the women's side, see it in other sports, kind of thinking, all right, where is that in men's basketball? How can we get that back? Like when Warney was here, for example. So that's the other thing too. When I think about this team is that you see all of this, and as a fan, you're thinking, there's a lot of turbulence here, and when you're going to CAA, obviously you're leveling up. You're expecting big seasons from this team, and if they don't deliver, you got to imagine the stove is hot, not just from a coaching standpoint, but I think from the team as a whole and what the vision is for the program, in terms of who they expect on and off the court to lead the team. And
not only that, a decision needs to be made. Go ahead, Greg.
I just think athletics in general, you have to have a good basketball team.
Yeah.
I just think it is because you're a good basketball team brings other people in. Because other athletes watch basketball. I watch basketball
for sure,
and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to watch football too.
Right, football, basketball, baseball to the best extent. But those are the 3 major sports that usually also have a college sport.
If football's not your number one, if football's not your number one sport, basketball needs to be.
It has to be.
Exactly.
St. John's.
I mean,
but if you're part of those other sports, if you're lacrosse, if you're soccer, you're going to come and watch basketball if basketball is good.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the importance of it. You're going to watch the football game if the football team is good. Right. And I think that's the importance of it because it gets other guys to come. What's the first thing that somebody says? Oh, if my son's going over here and he's going to this school and then, he's going to be able to watch this or he's going to be able to do this. It's the same thing with athletes. They want to watch good athletes.
Yeah, not only that, but again, for the fan point, Station wrote a great article about this earlier in the year. But football and basketball, men's basketball are 1 and 2 in terms of, in terms of fan attendance and revenue and obviously all that. So, for them to continue investing, especially as you go to CAA, you want to see a team be better.
Right.
If you don't have a good team, those revenues are dropping, and that's going to be a problem in all aspects.
Yeah.
And let's also be honest. All the attendance records in all the facilities on campus were set during postseason games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The
minus
attendance record for Island Federal Credit Union Arena in its present configuration, obviously the Jameel Warney game against Vermont, America East Final. The attendance record at Laval is an NCAA football game.
Well, I think a homecoming beat it, though, recently, no?
No, it didn't beat 11,000. We didn't put 11,000 in for homecoming, did we?
Yeah.
It was close, I think, past couple seasons. Well, not before COVID, obviously.
I wouldn't trust the numbers to begin with.
That's
I've been
also
in
true.
that, I've been in that press
Cam
box.
told us a story about the numbers. Okay,
I've been in that press box.
but the fact is that, and prior to that, prior to football breaking it was set by men's lacrosse in an NCAA tournament game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you've ever seen Laval Stadium full and loud, oh my God. And the place only holds 12 and only held 8 originally because the stands over by the right end of the field, when we're viewing it from the top, those were only added in the last few years to get the place up to standard for FCS. But so we originally started with a capacity of only 8. We put 10 in there.
Moral of the story is men's basketball's got to figure it out.
They got to get going.
And it's got to happen fast. And if it doesn't happen
it's got to happen now. And I hate being that guy. I hate saying, this year boom or bust, but it's got to happen now. I love Gino Ford. He's such a character. He's such a good guy. How do you not root for him? He lives in my hometown. How could I not root for him? Right? But if we continue to see these guys transferring out, saying things on Twitter, I mean, have you guys does anybody here follow Akwazi Yeboah or Jameel Warney? They say some things on Twitter some are subliminal, some are blatant.
Jameel Warney didn't play for Gino Ford except as an assistant, not even.
Right.
No, because he played for Michael.
He was around
different staff completely.
Makes you think. Yeah.
I mean, look, the word on the street and just the word based on what we see. I don't know, man. I don't know how many people want to be
Jim
here.
Nagel in lacrosse. And
I don't know how many people want to be here to play men's basketball. So hopefully this year they can pull, a men's soccer and just shock everyone. But given all the departures, all the graduations, remember they're losing Sales, Obway. They're losing Sales and Obway too, just because of their age. Those are 2 more big losses. They're losing a lot of players, and they're coming off a year in which they finished, from a team building standpoint, as horribly as you can. So we'll see. But I think you guys all hit it on the head. Yeah. He's definitely on the warm seat.
Well, famous last words. Whenever George Steinbrenner was about to fire a manager, he would verbally commit, "He's my manager." Period. For the next week or so. But first of all, Sean Helbrin, to his credit, will never ever put himself in a position like that. Mm-hmm. He won't even talk about it. So I'm not going there. But and also he's not like Jim Fiore was. He, no drama. He does things quietly, but he also has made moves based on performance, based on team's performance, but he does it quietly. The only problem is you can't make a change in men's basketball quietly. And the other thing about it is that he has not had to make a change on his unilaterally. People have quit on him. Peichel moved on to Rutgers, and Jeff Bowles went back to Ohio U.
Yeah.
This would be the first time he'd have to make a change. He'd have to fire somebody.
Right.
It was done for him previously.
before we shift, first let me just say this and then take the baton and run with it. We are not advocating for Gino Ford to be fired. We're just saying where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a common denominator to all these defections, transfer outs, blah 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 blah. Okay, everybody.
But we can say we are not calling. We are saying is please win so you can stay. You know.
Yes, we like you, Gino.
So we saw Atlanta the season, didn't we?
Please make me happy, Gino.
Yeah,
make poor Jeff pride. Come on,
make everybody happy. But the point is, we definitely want to see the Eagles succeed, and we hope that there is a solution, and we hope that this trend reverses itself. Maybe it was brought on by the various COVID issues we've had as well. We haven't really talked about that much. By the way, 11 o'clock. This is WUSB Stony Brook, the sports section. Matt Mankiewicz, Ken Furman, Greg Taylor, Mike Anderson, and Matthew Kearns. It's here until midnight, but we continue on. Okay, where shall we begin? We shall be chivalrous and start with softball?
Yeah, so once again, chivalrous. Ladies first.
I mean, it's not chivalrous. I mean, they were a pretty great team. That goes for all the women's programs.
You don't know what chivalry means, Ken.
I'm just saying. It's not just that. It's that
chivalry basically being a knight.
Right. Right. Well, hey, look, we are kind of the white knights of the of Stony Brook sports media. But yeah, the Stony Brook softball team was outstanding this year. 31-16 overall, 10-6 in conference play. They were my favorite team to watch. And mind you, I got to cover every baseball game. They were a fun team to watch, but man, softball, what a year from them. What a great group of girls. Just an intense team, fundamentally sound, no easy outs 1 through 9, and the pitching. Oh my God, the pitching. So that leads me to the easiest. I'm not going to say an obvious MVP, but I think likely a consensus MVP. Can we agree it's Dawn Bodrig?
I don't know how you don't.
Yeah, it's got to be. I would think, right?
Right. The only one who would rival her is her battery mate.
I was going to say,
right.
Because her power numbers just overshoot everybody's by a factor of 3.
She helped call some of those no-hitters too on ball drugs. So there's some credit there.
But yeah, drug. Let's talk about her. 2 no-hitters on the air. I got two of them on the air. She threw 4, I believe, this year overall.
4 no-hitters.
Okay,
4 no-hitters this year.
But it gets better. The absolute best of them.
Pick a fun stat.
Is the double no-hitter.
Yep, that's the one.
The one where they scored their runs on errors. Okay,
Courtney Coppersmith.
Courtney Coppersmith is one of the best pitchers in the world, right? So they no-hit each other.
Yeah. Oh man, and what a game that was! Jeez, I mean, you got the right fielder nonchalantly flipping the ball in underhand, and she overthrows the second baseman. Ball goes into left field, and a run scores. I mean,
no clue.
It was Little League. It was in the most major league game possible. The most Little League mistake costed them.
Yeah. Which was very reminiscent of Andy Hawkins, and also somebody in Major League Baseball this year threw a no-hitter and lost.
Right. Well, that was a combined no-hitter, but yeah. And I mean, it's games like that were indicative of what this Stony Brook softball team really is. You know, if you make one mistake, they will never let you forget it. If you give them a free base, it's over. It's over. They all run. They all take that extra base. They all play good defense, good to great defense. I mean, that is a very, very sure-handed ball club. And how are you going to hit them? What are you going to wait till tomorrow? You have to face Shelby Denman tomorrow. This team was unreal. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to see Dawn ever again. Also, unfortunately, her season didn't end very well, so her stats ballooned a little bit. But when a 2 ERA...
They made her stats look normal, that she has a 2 ERA on the dot. Mm-hmm.
Right.
She has a batting
average
average of .172.
Yeah, 172, .93 whip. she was only mostly dominant rather than just completely and utterly dominant. 10 complete game shutouts. 10.
It's like if I were to play on one of those baseball video games and I just set it on rookie and I play season mode and just mow through the computer.
Right, and you give her like a 99 mile per hour slider and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, she was just crazy. She was crazy good. She really headlined just such a good group of players. We're gonna miss her. We're gonna miss Shelby. I believe Shelby's not coming back. I tried getting a scoop on who's graduating and who's coming back. Apparently, the teams like to keep roster movement under wraps.
Makes sense for scouting.
Right. I trust that. So, having said that, word on the street during the season was that Shelby wanted to just get her degree and get out of here. She didn't want to come back. We're not judging. We love Shelby. Shelby was great this year.
But with Dawn graduating also, if she has another year of eligibility, she can be number 1 too.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look, we're not saying hit the road, Shelby.
Please don't.
We're just saying, she might not be back. No, look, Shelby Dedman has a blank check if I'm writing them. She could come back if she wants to. But for sure, Dawn Bodrig, the softball team MVP. Obviously, the runner-up would have been Corin Badger. I didn't want to do co-MVPs because that's lame. But let's talk about Corin just a little bit more. 16 home runs, 44 RBIs. This is a girl who was not a starter her first 2 years. So
and she played by great catchers too. Irene the Machine Rivera, another great slugger, great home runs. I call it nickname the Machine. Obviously, Pujols has that nickname. You're gonna take that, obviously live up to it. And obviously last year with Jordan Nowakowski, who was another student athlete who didn't get a lot of time until her senior season because Rivera was the primary catcher. And Nowakowski, I thought, played excellently. Also think she caught a no-hitter as well. Is that right?
Who knows, man?
I think last year was a perfect game.
I know Corin Badger caught Dawn Bodrig's perfect game.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Which was not this year. Because, by the way, Dawn Bodrig, I know she only threw 4 this year, but she actually threw 6 no-hitters in her career.
6 in total,
Yeah, she was all right.
But no, Badger lived up to it. Home run wise, that's what you want to see. As I said last year, Roderick's graduating. You need to replace that slugger. Badger lived up to it. 16 home runs, slash 312, 377, 716 as well.
Thank you for mentioning the batting average because I wanted to say she wasn't a 3 true outcomes hitter. 312 batting average, 44 RBIs. You want to talk about run production? It's not like it was 16 home runs, 30 RBIs. No. She could shorten up, hit the ball to right field if she wants. She just didn't always want to.
Yeah, 33 runs as well. So she scored a lot, almost as much as she was driving impacts.
Right, 6 home runs that opening weekend. Each of her first 7 base hits this year left the yard.
Phenomenal. So yeah, that's another one where you set it a rookie and just go against the community and see what happens.
Right, yeah, or like play at Yankee Stadium or something like that.
Yeah, hit the porch. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Don't exactly need to hit a ball hard to hit a home run there. But speaking of baseball, I think that's a perfect opportunity to segue into their male counterpart.
Oh boy, do we really have to spend much time on this one?
We
talk baseball all day long, but I'm saying MVP. Is there anybody else?
I mean, hey, if he was the MVP of the whole league, why not make him the MVP of the team, right?
Exactly,
we're talking, of course, about third baseman Evan Giordano. Really, the only question is, Matt, which Evan Giordano was more valuable, number 12 or number 45?
I saw him wear number 45. What is this, Michael Jordan?
Yeah. Right, I texted the previous baseball reporter. Name was Matt Lindsay, previous reporter for the Statesman, and I texted Matt because Matt loves Evan Giordano. That's like his favorite player.
I think everyone does.
I think everyone loves Stony. The girls love Evan Giordano. Let me tell you, but the boys do too. And Matt Lindsay, that was his favorite player. So I texted him like, "Oh, Michael Jordan alert! Guess who changed his number to 45?" And he responded, Evan Giordano, so he knew.
Oh, he knew.
Right off the bat, he knew. And guess what, man? 12 was a really good player, but 45 was just... I mean, he was right-handed Barry Bonds without the steroids. Like, it was crazy. So let me give you the backstory. So his dad, John Giordano, good guy, walks up to me. Guess he recognized me, introduced himself. we started talking, and he's telling me, because I'm asking him, like, hey, what's up with the number 45? Why is he a different person now? And he said when they were down in New Jersey, Evan's red 12 and his gray 12 stunk so bad that he left them in the closet, wore a different jersey for the day, came back, and they were gone.
Ooh.
So, you know how parking valets will steal stuff from your car? Well, it's the same stuff with room service. And I guess someone in Newark, New Jersey has an Evan Giordano game used 12. Two of them. And they're clearly game used. I don't know. I don't know if they want to get the stink out, right? Yeah, no, if you leave it, if you wash the stink out, doesn't it decrease in value?
Right.
Yeah. It just proves authenticity. Only problem is don't hang it up in your man cave.
Right. Yeah.
Or put it in your closet. Or forget that. It'll stink up everything.
Well, maybe if you hang it on your door, it'll keep vampires out. But
we joke, but he had a heck of a year, man. 61 hits, 13 homers.
Hard to get better than how he was last year, and yet he did.
He did, right.
Evan Giordano, man. 333 batting average, 442 on base percentage. Which one is more impressive to you? I don't know. It's tough. But 13 home runs. I believe that was 5th all time in baseball record books.
I believe so. Yeah, it's definitely up there.
He was tied for 6th with 12, and immediately after Sam Niederman said that, he hit his 13th. So that would have had to have moved him up to 5th. 49 runs batted in. Obviously, none bigger than the 4 he had in what was literally a championship game. Last game of the season, senior day, Saturday, May 20th. Hartford sweeps Maine, keeps the championship window open.
Nobody thought they would do that. We thought after losing that game in the rain the day before that we were done.
Yeah, right. And Hartford kept the window open, but baseball team finds themselves down 5-0. You scratch across a run on a drop fly ball that pretty much worked as a sac fly. And then Evan Giordano, man, one swing, 3 more runs. Now it's a 5-4 ball game. Some magic between Brown Airing and Fox ties the game. And hey, 5 innings later, bottom of the 10th. Who better? Evan Giordano, man.
Can't script moments like that, you know?
No. 2 walk-off RBIs this year. 3 in his career, because remember, he sent Albany packing last year with that walk-off 2-run single in the playoffs. And, I mean, he's become Ice Gio. I don't think they're calling him that because that's kind of a cringy nickname, but he's ice in the veins Evan. He is Mr. Clutch. You know he's going to get that big hit when he needs to. And it's not just walk-off hits, right? It's game-tying hits. It's go-ahead hits. It's getting that run in from third with less than 2 outs. He does everything on the offensive side of the ball that you need him to do. 628 slugging percentage, 1070 OPS. And it was even more impressive in America East games.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ken.
The 13 home runs tie him for 4th in program history with Dylan Resk and Michael Tansey in single season.
Wow. Well, congratulations, Evan.
I remember those guys.
So I undersold it. And, the one aspect of Giordano's game that has to get better is his defense. You know, third base, it's a hard position. They call it the hot corner for a reason. But, you know, a lot of errors this year on routine plays, you know, stuff that had nothing to do with it being the hot corner. So I do want to see him get better defensively. He's got to make some better throws across the diamond. But
he's someone who, again, he's a senior, so he's someone you really hope, because I believe he does have that extra year eligibility. So
he does.
You really hope comes back for the CAA.
Right, and I know he expressed interest in returning, and he renewed the lease on his house. So, I mean, you could read between the lines there. Right. I don't think Matt Sank is going to say, you know what, Evan, I think it's time we move on from you.
Right.
I don't think...
If that's when you're a scholarship guy. It's honestly stop giving him, you know?
It's like...
Right. So, yeah.
Better come back next year, I think is what he said. It's like, otherwise we're going to have a hard time in the CAA.
Yeah. Well, a harder time. But, you know, I wouldn't say a hard time. I think the baseball team, women's basketball, you know, teams like that, softball, obviously, they're going to adjust to the CAA. And it's going to be
strong, but
No, they might not win it. They might not
Yeah.
finish in the top 3, but
Not
they're
this
going to
year.
adjust well. It's not going to take long for
I
them.
said it last week. They're probably going to replace JMU. They finished 5th in the standings, baseball standings, which would have given them a championship, CAA championship berth. I think Stony Brook's going to take that. I think they could be a top 5 team.
Right, and speaking of CAA champions, Hofstra.
Yeah,
Hofstra is going to the NCAA.
That's right.
So
90
congratulations to the other college who accepted me out of high school.
a lot of us. Yeah.
And just make a note that Stony Brook demolished them 15-7 this year. Matt Brown airing 3 hits, 2 homers, 6 RBIs.
Can I just add, what a way to win the championship, by the way. They won off a bases loaded hit by pitch.
Oh, yeah. They were the kings of the walk-offs this year. I mean, Stony Brook had 4 walk-offs, but Hofstra doubled them. So it's
Frank
crazy.
Catalano, Mets legend. He knew the
Yeah.
secrets.
Yeah.
But Buck must have
he
shared
gets
the
90.
Buck must have shared the hit by pitch secrets, because that helped Hofstra get the title this year.
Yeah. You know what, man? You got to do what you got to do.
That's right.
If that ball's coming for your elbow and the bases are loaded, you're stupid if you back
That's
out.
right. It's when you duck.
Yeah, no. If you get out of the way, you're not a team player. I'm telling you. I don't care if it's
Speaking
coming
of
for your
which,
face.
I think Frank Catalano played for Buck Showalter.
He may have. Who knows?
Because
But,
he was in Texas in 2000, 2002. I think he might have been, and then also 708. So I think he might have been. He might have played for Buck.
it's all too possible. We could figure that out as we start talking about the Mets more, but we're not done yet. So let's just wrap up this Evan Giordano segment. Does anyone else have an honorable mention? I mean, I think the other Evan Fox, deserves an honorable mention because he is a force to be reckoned with. But other than just saying he's a force to be reckoned with, I don't have much on him. Obviously, we know where he makes his impact. He's a beast. I expect his ascent to continue. I think he was snubbed of the all-conference team. But yeah, he would be my honorable mention. Anybody have an honorable mention? Because there's no way you have another MVP. When
No,
this
yeah,
guy was MVP in the conference.
he's the only MVP. But I think there's when you talk about Giordano finishing up with that walk-off hit, it's like how can you not love baseball?
How can you not be romantic?
Right, that's the Moneyball, right? How can you not be romantic about baseball? I mean, it is so true. And Ken, you had brought that up as well too. It's just like you can't make these things up. Like these things just occur, right? It's unbelievable.
Right. And by the way, let me take a victory lap. Who saw what the America East tweeted after Stony Brook won the America East? And what did I say the America East was going to do if we finished with equal records with Maine?
Oh, they gave it to
co-champs. Right. Now, I was expecting them to just disregard us and give it to Maine completely. Instead, they named us co-champs. So I got it half right. But that was obviously just
By contrast,
the America East being in denial because Stony Brook won the tiebreaker.
Get a load of this.
Whatever. Go ahead, Matt.
By contrast, the CAA, okay, they banned James Madison from participating in tournaments as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
In women's lacrosse, James Madison was listed as a second team that went to the NCAA from the CAA. They bragged about the fact that James Madison got an at-large bid despite not competing in the tournament.
Did America East do that with the women's lacrosse?
Hell no.
They knew better.
Look. If you take a look, the America East gave awards appropriately. I mean, Giordano, of course, Player of the Year, and of course, several players on first and second team,
Right.
and
Brown
Rookie of the
Aaron.
Year, Brown Aaron, and all that. I mean, as if they were full members, but. You know, you see the CAA bragging about a team they banned from the tournament, making the NCAA, and they didn't even give. I mean, take a look at the women's lacrosse news in the America East. They barely even mention Stony Brook exists other than the postseason awards.
That's because you have to. Yeah.
Say nothing about the NCAA run because it was achieved in spite of the America East, not because of it.
Right. The America East might have been more interested in what Bryant was doing. I'm serious. I mean, they were so. Both Stony Brook and the America East are so mutually done with one another. They were just so sick of one another.
sad.
Yeah.
Well,
look, I mean, it was like an ugly divorce, but they were trying to live together still for the sake of the children, and it just wasn't working.
It's a bad high school breakup where you still have to go to class together.
Or when you work with them. Coworkers with benefits.
That is exactly how it turned out. And I kind of knew because when Ethan Tam published that the vote was unanimous to ban us from the tournaments, that means, man, they really hate us.
Yeah. That means Hartford got a vote.
Yeah.
And Hartford already announced, hey, you know what, America East, been nice knowing you. We're out. So,
and it was we don't like you either.
Yeah, whatever.
And look, Bryant, I wish them luck because Bryant, by the way, a little side story that affects the listening area, is they played LIU today for the Northeast Conference. Get a load of this. Bryant played LIU today for the Northeast Conference Championship, and they're going to the America East next year. There is an alternative to being petty and spiteful. By the way,
that's true.
Okay,
true.
LIU won.
Pretty impressive.
LIU is going to the NCAA representing the Northeast Conference, but Bryant wasn't kicked out of the tournaments when they announced they're going to the America East.
It is amazing. The only two teams in the nation that experienced this were JMU and Stony Brook.
Yeah,
because there was another school too. When we spoke with Renee Ward about this, that it was a team in Illinois. I forget which one exactly, but they were originally banned and then unbanned. So yeah, it's disappointing that both programs got they could have had potential opportunities and conference titles, and they weren't given that opportunity, and that sucks. Especially for teams like men's and women's lacrosse, which we're going to get into now, because both had pretty good shots, especially the women, obviously, of winning those conference titles again.
Yeah, for sure. But speaking of Bryant, right, we're just going to do a quick shout out. Stony Brook's former first team all-conference catcher, Johnny Tuchillo, enjoyed a pretty good final season. He played it over at Bryant University, batted .282, and he had a clutch seeing eye hit a couple of days ago, helped Bryant move on. Just congratulations to Tooch. But with all that being said, about Evan Giordano and the baseball boys, and a little bit about Foxy, a little bit about Matt Brown-Airing, I think it's time we enter the home stretch. So let's talk about the men's lacrosse team. It was a good year for the men's lacrosse team. They were receiving votes for a little while. 9-5 overall, 4-2 in the America East. Defended the home yard relatively well, 4-3 at Laval Stadium. So who do you guys have for the men's lacrosse MVP?
Greg, you first.
You know what? I actually had Mike McCannell for the MVP for the men. I kind of felt with Kevin Mack coming in, he took the I don't want to say the bull out of
bull by the horns.
No, I don't want to say he took the bull out of.
He did pretty well though for coming in transfer.
Yeah, I think he played well. I think he kind of controlled a little bit more attack.
He definitely shined. Yeah.
Well, he did have more points than Dylan Palinetti. That is true.
Yeah, but I felt like just the reason why I went with McCannell, he's America East or All American East first team. He got drafted into the NLL. I just think his leadership, like just interviewing him after the games, and having conversation with him, I thought that he had the leadership that was that the team kind of followed him. He spoke, and it seemed like the team followed him, and he's the longest standing member of the team. So I felt like that was important as well too. I don't want to say Palinetti took a step backwards. That wouldn't be accurate to say that. I just think with Kevin Mack joining the attack group, it takes the ball out of Palinetti's stick a little bit, which is going to decrease his output. He's still a very good player, but I just thought McCannell, just leadership wise, in the atmosphere that we were just talking about with baseball and with the America East, I just felt like somebody had to keep it together. Mm-hmm. In particular with all those guys that are coming, like he's coming back for his another graduate year. Max coming in, the kid Williams is coming in. You have all these players that are coming in really to play one more year to go to the NCAA tournament. That's why they picked Stony Brook to go there, to win the America East and go to the tournament, and then to not get that, and to go through a whole season where things could really fall apart. And they had some challenging times during the season, but they kind of were able to keep it together, and I just thought that was leadership. And I just have to say, give Coach Gallardi credit in that regard as well, too.
I agree. McCannell, I think, was I think the major piece in the puzzle here. I think Palinetti, as a sophomore, it's going to be his team next year. There's no doubt about it. But McCannell, I think, had the little edge in leadership. And interestingly enough, in an all-conference first team loaded with catamounts, McCannell and Palinetti were the only Eagles that made first team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think defensively that they didn't stop anybody ever.
No.
You know, they switched their goalies halfway through the season, or halfway through the America East season, so it wasn't going to be there. So, you know, I think that was kind of. And Vermont's offense is just so good. Only one player was gonna get it on the attack unit, and that was gonna be Palinetti, because he's really the returner. You know, Vermont is fun to watch offensively. They can move the ball offensively, so they were enjoyable to watch. So I could see why it would be them having so many. But I just thought McCannell, just the way he played, you know, and also just his demeanor on the field, and then, you know, clearly off the field as well too, which is different.
Now, we talked about this quite a bit over the course of the season, and it becomes more and more apparent considering how far Rutgers went this year. That 1-goal loss to Rutgers we thought was a turning point for the Seawolves and a turning point for the worse. Even though they did manage to win other games over the course of the season, that was, if they had beaten Rutgers at that point, that could have put them at another level. And I mean, just seeing Rutgers go as far as they did just kind of reminds me of that. That you lost to this team and went to the Final Four by 1 goal.
But if you beat a top 5 team, that puts you into probably right around, you know, 11 or 12 to do that. And then now you're in the top 20 for quite some time. You know, so there's a confidence boost in that regard. I thought the loss to Syracuse, they looked bad.
Yeah, only 9 goals scored as well.
Against a team that didn't look that great either.
Albany too,
and Syracuse didn't make the tournament.
You know, Matt, that's a good.
The Albany loss was an absolute clunker.
Yeah, that was. But you're gonna have a game where you're gonna throw. I hate to say it, but you know, with the 14 games in a regular season, one of them was going to be a clunker, and that was it. That was the clunker for sure. They just don't show up. I mean, Matt Kearns, what do you think about the men?
Yeah, no, I think they, especially, it was one of those teams where they were really affected by the America East ruling, but they had those games that they could win, and keeping it close with Rutgers. I mean, obviously, I thought that could be a turning point for the better, knowing that, okay, the year before Rutgers made it to the quarterfinals and they only lost by a goal to North Carolina. And then this year they make it to the semifinals, keeping it within 1 goal. It's not bad at all. And then, as you're saying, you know, you have a loss to Syracuse, Albany, and then I know later in the season they lost to like Brown, and it wasn't that close. So it was a little, you know, it was tough, because I think if they had played in the America East tournament and got hot at the right time, they could have put it together against some of those teams in the tournament, maybe. Yeah, I know. I thought the Syracuse loss took a lot of gas out of their tank. You know, I think it changed their season, and I kind of felt like they won games after that. And I thought that's almost going back to the McCannell being my choice is that's why somebody had to pull that group back together, and I feel like he did it.
The Syracuse game too is big because, to me at least, that's the game where, you know, that determines if you get an at-large bid or not, in my opinion. Syracuse was already on the way down, but both teams were still receiving votes. Syracuse was ahead of Stony Brook, so ideally you think Stony Brook beats Syracuse, they take Syracuse's votes move up. Maybe they're not top 20 or top 25. But you're right under it. You're 26th, right? Or 21st if it's top 20. And, you win out, and there's a chance. There's a slight chance, but there's a better chance than 0, which is kind of what happened between losing to Syracuse and New Albany.
Yeah, maybe we knock out an Ivy.
Well, if you lose to Syracuse, if you beat Syracuse, what it does is it legitimizes that 1-goal loss to Rutgers.
Exactly. That's everything, yeah.
Yeah.
And that 3-goal loss to Brown.
Yeah, good point. Mm-hmm. Which was played in like a monsoon as well, too. Yes. So that was like a weird kind of game for them.
Yeah. That's the interesting thing, too, right? You got McCannell gone. Mac was obviously a rental. He was a graduate. So obviously Palinetti's going to come back. But for you guys, who do you think is really going to step up in the attack, come next season?
I don't know. I mean, they're looking at a new group. I thought they did, opposite of like the men's basketball team. I thought the men's lacrosse team did a nice job of picking the right players to join in, who were these 5th-year guys or graduate players. But I think it's you're getting close to the time where, and we talked about it with basketball, and I think lacrosse is the same way. Who are going to be these guys that kind of like jump in and become like your stalwarts of the program moving forward. I guess the kid Jameson McLaughlin is going to be one of them.
He's going to be the next goaltender, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
freshman, yeah.
Freshman, I guess he's going to be the guy. I think you're going to have to see him become more verbal. I like the way he performed after performing poorly. He came back and played. He played well in spots. Played poorly in the beginning, and then came back and played better in the second half. I mean, that's a sign of maturity. Usually, that doesn't happen. That kind of like a young goalie kind of falls apart when that occurs. So I think he's the one that defensively, though. Defenseman, I don't know where they go defensively.
Well, a lot of the guys are back. Sabella's back. John Stewart's back. Williams is a grad, so he's out. But
so the guy Williams is a grad, right? He's playing in the North-South game.
Williams is out, yeah.
Yeah,
but he was like you said, he was a rental.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, were you that impressed defensively with them?
Not really.
So like you're losing one of the starters, and
you lose a lot of firepower. I mean, I'm just looking at all the grad students here. You lose Wayne White, you lose Matt DeMeo, you lose. Let's see, who else you lose? You lose McCannell. We just said we lose Mac. You got a lot of rebuilding to do, but I think that the program is in good hands. I think the program is in good shape overall. I think they're going to compete in CAA, especially because Hofstra's still struggling.
Yeah,
we were supposed to meet Hofstra. Remember that Long Island Cup at Schuart Stadium? We ended up meeting LIU.
Right, yeah.
Instead of Hofstra, because it was set up for Stony Brook and Hofstra meeting for the trophy, and now they can't have both of them in there if they're going to keep the trophy going, because that can't be a regular conference game. If you know what I mean.
I think it's funny.
They'd have to meet in the opening round.
Who are they going to lean on here moving forward? Renz Conlon, and how does he play at the face-off next year? Deskowitz, does he come back? He was a senior at the face-off X. I mean, you're strong. We always say strong up the middle, right?
Deskowitz got a lot of action later in the season.
Now, we didn't realize this, but when we were doing the game against Vermont, he actually got hurt. That's why he didn't play the rest of the game.
Okay.
And it's a shame because he won like the first 3 face-offs, and then he was out, and I think he pulled his hamstring. But so you're strong at the middle. Good young goalie. You're going to be good at the face-off X, and you've got a good attackman. Okay, so you're strong up the middle now. Now you got to piece, put the other pieces together. So there's pieces that you like. Dave Amelia Estrella coming back. He'll be a fifth-year guy. He'll be a captain, I would assume. I love the way he plays. Right, so.
Morschauser, I like him as a sophomore, a short stick D midi.
Yes, and he was really good in transition as well too. He got the ball off the carpet and pushed it in transition. Mm-hmm. There's pieces there. You got to look at the recruiting class and see who they have coming in with those guys, and then are they ready to produce? The big one is you got the goalie. You got the goalie in the face-off, guys. And that was the difference in the Rutgers game as well, too, is Renz Collin played his best game in that game. And that's why it was such a close game.
Mm-hmm. So,
with all of that being said, I think it's time we finally, maybe we get our final words on the men's lacrosse team out, but then we officially transition to the pride and joy of Stony Brook Athletics. Anybody else got anything they want to say?
No, I think we should move on. I think we should set ourselves up for a team that, despite all the other backroom politics that went on all season, ended up carrying the flag for the entire athletic department and doing it with the aplomb that we're accustomed to seeing. That while this season they still haven't broken through the glass ceiling of the Final Four just yet, this is a season that can rack up against any of the others.
Our nationally ranked women's lacrosse team, 16-3 overall, of course undefeated in conference play. That's implied.
16-2-0, I believe they finish.
Well, 16-3 if you count the.
I meant no. They had the longest winning streak in NCAA. I think it was 62 straight conference wins going back to like 2015.
I thought you were saying 16-2.
No.
But yeah, it goes back to when I was in 7th grade.
Right.
So
it's been a while. Kylie Miller was still on the team. I think she was a freshman. No, she was a sophomore. That's how long ago it is.
Long time. Yeah, the Obama administration.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. It kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? I mean, ranked 6th or 7th in the nation, depending on, whichever outlet you follow. Raised it to 5th at one point.
They finished 4th, actually.
Right.
USA Lacrosse Mag.
Yeah, no, it made their way all the way to Chapel Hill. Got to face the number 1 ranked team in the country. Had 2 leads. They played a hell of a game that day. They were just outplayed by the stingiest team in the country. So, I mean,
they won. They won it all.
They won today. Very good game.
Yeah. Right, a wire-to-wire season for UNC. Much respect to them, but these women, our Lady Seawolves, one of only 2 teams to lead them at the half. So, with all that being said, who's the MVP? How do you even pick a most valuable player here? Go ahead, I want to hear it.
Matt Kearns, go first, buddy. Jump in, let us know.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely tough. There were a lot of great contributors, but I feel like I'll probably get, for the most part, an agreement on this. It's probably Ellie Massera. She was, first team almost All-American on one of the outlets. I forget who it was, but led the team in points. She was a star, especially in the playoffs. She's got a great first step, can rip it with both hands. She really stepped up in both playoff, really all 3 playoff games, even the loss against North Carolina. She played really well, and I think that it's going to be great because she's only a sophomore, going to have her run for 2, possibly 3 more years.
Yep.
And I think it's great to see that already, just as a sophomore, she's taking that quarterback position on the team, and you're going to have 2 or 3 more years of that. I think that she impressed a lot of people.
Great point. Yeah. 67 goals, 87 points, 100 draw control wins, 18 close turnovers. She does everything. That's the incredible thing for her position. At the midfield, she really does everything, offensively, defensively. She's the engine on both sides most of the time, just because her motor is always at 100. She is a phenomenal player on both ends because not only is she causing turnover or picking up loose ground balls off turnovers defensively, off a tremendous defense at that as well. But she's often scoring, and she's just headstrong, straight to the net, finding ways to score. Just phenomenal athlete. Reason why she was conference midfielder of the year, first team in pretty much every outlet. She's the future. And I was talking about the start of the season. First, Kylie Miller graduated. You need someone to step up, fill that hole. Allie Kennedy does that. Kennedy's graduated. You need someone to step up, fill that hole. And Ellie Massera took that baton, and she is running with it right now. It's leading the team in points, doing everything. had a great season. Caitlin Hart as well, I thought had a great season too. 64 goals, 78 points right under her. Yeah, Masera's definitely the star of the team. But quickly before we move on too, I think defensively as well, they're so great. One of the reasons why they were one of the best defenses in the nation is because they had so many great defenders, led under Haley Dillon, obviously 50 calls turnovers, just absolutely phenomenal job there. And she was usually keyed in on the best attackers from the other team. She was locking them down. So huge. Now, obviously, the goaltending tandem, Halsall and Campbell. Campbell, her last 3 weeks to month, just phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in and say, I think I think Matt Kearns is right. I don't think you can say it's not Ellie Masera being the MVP. I do think she is probably the best player on the team. The one player I think is really going to be tough to replace is Claire Levy. Mm-hmm. I think she is going to be, because she does a lot of those gritty things that you don't see too many players do. And it's really weird how this could occur, but like how they could be so athletic, but you have just one player that is like a glue player and keeps everybody kind of together. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, you're not on the field with them and not in their locker room, so we don't know. But she just seems like a girl that comes in and gets the job done. I mean, plays defense, picks up the ball, she takes draws. I mean, she really, to me, and she's young too. I mean, she's only a sophomore as well, right? So
you know what she reminds me of, and I described it the couple of times I was able to broadcast games as the women's equivalent of a short stick D midi, and maybe even more than that, the women's equivalent of the pole of a Stephen Waldeck. Greg, you remember what I'm talking about. Waldeck was part of that legendary 2010-2011 team with Kevin Crowley and Jordan McBride, but he was the guy who basically got them the ball, vacuumed it up, and got to one of those guys. He was all over, and he was actually drafted ahead of them in the pro drafts.
Yeah, and understandably so. I mean, he was one of those the defense to offense kind of players, and you're right.
And they did with a long stick too, no less. But but
it's a good comparison. It really is. They do play a very similar game, and when she gets the ball on her stick, I mean, she is on the run, ready to she is on the run, ready to create offense. So I think she'd be tough to play without. So that's why I think she's so important to the team. I don't know. It's like not a most valuable player, but maybe the most important player.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps a nice bow on it. I think just throughout the season, I think a lot of teams impressed. Obviously,
right.
Maybe not as many championships as the past couple seasons. Obviously, part of the reason is because of postseason ban, but you can't say we're not excited for what comes next, especially in the first season for virtually every team in the CAA, because for a lot of these teams, they're still going to be pretty competitive, even if they may not be championship favorites at the moment outside of women's lacrosse.